Time brings change, but you're still the same person that I met on the first day. You always have to psych yourself up with a little bit of music before digging in to disruptive news about tax law. Whenever you're going to go against the status quo. All right, I think I'm ready. Yo, we need to have a real conversation about S-Corps. Not the sanitized, LinkedIn-approved, finfluencer-backed kind where everybody's pretending that they have their shit together and it's all perfect for everyone to jump into this type of business entity. I have done way too much work unraveling the bullshit that comes from believing a lot of that. The messy, vulnerable truth about whether you should elect to be an S-Corp with your LLC. The way that most of mainstream is telling you to make that decision is, in my opinion, very damaging. And I don't want our particular community to be damaged any further. So that's why I'm dropping this today. Whether or not electing an S-Corp status for your LLC is just another way for advisors in the market to extract hourly fees from your creative, exhausted ass. One thing that I definitely want to make sure we cover today: S-Corps are not for everyone. That's one thing that mainstream does not want to admit. They are not for everyone. And I get heat for it all the time. I'll get the heat for it. You don't have to worry about it. They're not for the folks who are waiting on capitalism to implode. They are not for those barely trading water, hoping that the system will magically transform itself while they sleep. Nah, S-Corps are for those of us who have decided to act with this broken system. Those of us who understand the both and philosophy with it. To dance with the devil, we know, extracting what we can while building something else entirely. Sort of like that thing in that Jay-Z song where he says, I'm dancing with the devil, but I hope I don't have two left feet. It is a both and philosophy. So we're playing the game and changing it simultaneously for whatever benefits we feel we can extract from it for ourselves and whatever business we're trying to create. So let's get into it. Point number 1, the energy tax that no one talks about. I want to start here because S-Corps are like that high maintenance friend who only shows up when everything's Instagram perfect. Listen, an S-Corp is not your ride or die homie who will hold your hair back when capitalism makes you sick. It's that friend who requires a reservation 3 weeks in advance and gets pissy if you're 5 minutes late. Number 1 within this point is this thing within the list of requirements for S-Corps called reasonable compensation. The IRS demands you pay yourself a reasonable salary before taking distributions from your business. Now, what's reasonable? Well, they won't tell you exactly what is because ambiguity is how they keep us anxious and compliant. But under Revenue Ruling 59-221, and I promise y'all I won't do too much of that because I don't want to make your eyes bleed or ears hurt or head hurt, but it's what you'd pay someone else to do your job. The dark truth of this is if you're too exhausted from systemic bullshit to maintain proper payroll records, to see yourself as your own employee, to file quarterly 941s, to even know what they are, also the state required withholdings and returns for all of your payroll, to dance that administrative tango, you will get burned. The IRS doesn't care that you were dealing with microaggressions all week. They want their paperwork on time and they fine you when you don't send it in. And when S-Corps came about, and because of how they have evolved and what they will and will not allow you to do in one, a lot of what's expected for an S-Corp owner is the same thing that would be expected from someone who owns a bigger business that understands how it works underneath our capitalist regime. So, in essence, lots of people will come up with that reasonable compensation number by looking up, very simply, whatever your business type is, whatever you do for your business, in a website like the Bureau for Labor Statistics. That information is always available to everyone all the time, but you do have to get a little bit forensic to put things together to prove your case, as it were, for the reasonable compensation that you create. And that is really, really key to starting to understand if an S-Corp is for you, because if everything I just said made your head hurt, I would consider not doing it, because it's not going to be a very fun situation for you when you aren't clear on what's required of maintaining it. So if you're too exhausted from what it takes to run your business already, this is just one reason, just one point that I wanted to make today about who S-Corps are not for. But there's even more than this to consider. Point number 2, the both and hustle reality check. S-Corps are also like code switching at a corporate job. You have to be fluent in both languages. You know that feeling when you're switching between your authentic self and your professional persona, that mental gymnastics routine that leaves you depleted by about 2:30 p.m.? That's S-Corp life, my dears. The essential tip here regards separate books and records. And the tax code will demand that complete separation between you and your business entity is upheld on paper for an S-Corp. Separate bank accounts, separate credit cards, board resolutions for major decisions, even if it's just you. It's like maintaining two completely different identities and being your own Superman and Clark Kent, except the IRS is watching and able to audit both. So again, this is not for folks who mix and is comfortable mixing and commingling business and personal expenses, because survival mode is not the mode here. It is not the mood here. It is not the vibe here. This does not allow for survival mode thinking and just doing things lazily with your records. You have to be a person who meticulously maintains very neat categories for everything related to the business itself. They cross through the mechanism that we talked about in point 1, which is when the business pays you. Okay? So again, an S-Corp is for those who have transcended survival mode to some extent, and they have entered strategic mode. People who can hold the complexity of being a both and, like an individual and a corporate entity without losing themselves in the process. An uncomfortable conversation to have, but one that needs to be had about the mental health situation for so many LLC owners who get just barraged with all of this S-Corp, 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 S-Corp. It's the best thing since sliced bread. Advice, vanilla posted to them all the time just because they're an LLC, right? Every single business is at different stages, and even some of those stages will change. And that business owner, depending on where they see their business going, or even if the business started out one way and is ending up another, all these things can have a huge mental toll on that LLC owner. And I'll tell you this, I've dealt with too many of them that wish they weren't an S-Corp to not bring this up. Where you are mentally, even with the system itself, is going to affect how you maintain your records, and if not, you will be penalized for it. So remember, if you can hold the complexity of being both an individual and a corporate entity without losing yourself in the process, you may be ready to consider it, but only if you are a person that is okay with the practice of separating your books and records from your person to the business itself in a very clear way on paper. When we get into how we're going to be creating our own wealth paths, yes, I'm telling you right now, S-Corp is definitely great for some of you out there who are listening to this and who are wondering if they should consider it. But there's a lot of you out there that are just basically hearing that S-Corps are great and tax savings are involved, and they're really, really questioning whether or not they can handle the paperwork and administrative responsibility involved. And I'm hoping that you're hearing me when I say that if you already have some habits in place, it could be good for you, but there's a couple of other things for our community that I want to bring up for you to also consider before jumping into this complex entity structure. Point number 3, the liberation paradox. S-Corps are like gentrification. You can participate, you can profit, but you better understand what you're perpetuating and what you're appropriating. Here's where the conversation about S-Corps gets really uncomfortable for me. Yes, it is absolutely true that S-Corps can save some folks thousands of dollars in self-employment taxes. But you have to also remember, and I'm so glad that I'm speaking to my community as it relates to this, they're also a tool of the very system that has been designed to exclude us. So to be a Black person or a Black queer person or a person of color going into this type of entity, you're going to start to see some requirements of capitalism that twist your stomach. Okay? Now, the tip that I'm going to give along with this point regards annual filings and state compliance. There are different returns you must comply with and file for your business, separate from the returns that you do for yourself as a person. As a person, we already know that we have to file a 1040 every year. But there's a very special form that has to be filed for the S-Corp, and that is the 1120S form. That form, plus your state franchise or corporation taxes, plus the registered agent fees, plus the corporate minutes that you have to do, even if you're just standing there talking to yourself and you're having to commit that to paper every year. All of these things are compliance you have to do each year. In some states, that's $800 just to exist. I'm looking at you, California. The infrastructure that's required for an S-Corp isn't just financial. It can actually become psychological for some of us who know the system is not designed to include us. The exclusionary language on these forms can mess with you a bit. The technical requirement under section 6037, I promise I'm not going to keep doing that to you, is clear. The annual information returns that you file for your 1120S is truly an information return, but it has to follow the owner. It has to show the owner's contributions and distributions directly in and out of that business's earned money. That creates what's called a trail of basis for the shareholder, showing each shareholder's pro rata share of income, deductions, and credits are required and must be there. It's saying we need to see the actual owners of this S-Corp, how much they're putting in the business, how much they take from the business before it pays its bills. And we need to know what that number is and how it lands each and every year from the beginning. That is what shareholder basis is. Okay? If you miss these deadlines, the penalties start at $205 per shareholder per month. And that's the system extracting wealth from those of us who can't keep up with its Byzantine requirements just because it's a requirement of the style of entity that you've created. It's really uncomfortable to talk about, but I know a lot of people just can't handle doing their own 1040 on time, let alone having to set up a structure around doing something else and learning about what that entails to have it done properly, accurately, and by the deadline. It's not that you can't get help out of those fees and ask for abatements and stuff like that. Sometimes they come, sometimes it's in parts. But there's a lot of requirements involved in appropriating this part of the capitalist game, if you will. Honestly, for those of us who have to set up our business in such a way where we are qualifying for a government contract or to deal with a much bigger institution that has restricted funds where they are going to subcontract to us because they have the government contract. Sometimes you fall into having to do an S-Corp because you have to get the business for your business, not because you wanted to, right? But some of us do have a choice. And I like to talk about the things that surround that because, again, you have to make the conclusion based on you. All right, I'm going to say something uncomfortable here, and I need you to hear me. Here's the truth as I see it, delivered with all the vulnerability of someone who has danced this dance and has been one of the people that I'm about to label right now. S-Corps are for those of us who have decided to be accomplished appropriators of capitalism, like urban gentrifiers know that they are a part of the problem, but they are going to live where they want. Who understand that sometimes liberation looks like using the master's tools to dismantle the master's house, even when Audre Lorde warned us about the limitations of that approach. If you're still in survival mode, if you're still waiting on the revolution, still hoping someone else will fix this mess, keep your LLC simple. There's no shame in that game. Protect your energy for the battles that matter to you. If you're ready to act with this chaos, engage in it in such a way where you are going to extract from it what you deem appropriate for you. If you can hold the both and of building wealth while critiquing it, if you've got the emotional bandwidth to maintain corporate formalities while planning capitalism's funeral, and if you are in a business having the ability to last and be something for your family, for your generational wealth, for your chosen family, and it's the type of business where you have to have this structure and you just want to understand it so that from top to bottom, inside and out, you are getting the most out of it that you can, then maybe, just maybe, an S-Corp election is your next move and should be. I just like people to understand all of the things that are involved and not just the tax saving banner that's across it, as if this is going to be something that's not going to cost you, because it will, based on how much money your company made this year and the things that you did that you can prove on paper. Because not everybody saves all the taxes every single year from it. They just avoid some of the taxes they would have paid without it. Maybe it's for you, and maybe it's not, because you prefer things to be simple. You prefer not all of your time being spent on constructing something around a second set of documents that sort of feels like your life, but you're having to create an entire project around the fact that it legally is not anymore. S-Corp paperwork is more than just paperwork. For our community, for any person of color that's living in America's oppressive system, it has so much more to do with what we can psychologically handle around what we have to maintain and what we intend to build than it does just tax savings. Because again, the tax savings that are involved in an S-Corp is dependent upon you maintaining that administrative responsibility of an S-Corp. And I hope that I made that point today. Remember, your business structure should match your life philosophy. So don't let anyone, not your CPA, not your cousin or uncle, not your business coach, not even me, convince you that you need to adopt a structure that doesn't align with where you're at and where you intend to go and how you intend to live with the business you create and the wealth that you intend to create for yourself. But listen, okay? Lean in close. Sometimes an S-Corp LLC is like armor for someone in our community who's never been taken seriously. I'm talking to the creatives out there. When you're constantly dismissed, diminished, and made invisible, paying to play becomes an act of defiance. It's agreeing to step up, to demand the respect your vision deserves. And if your business is that type of extension of you, if that's where you want your wealth to actually be created from, then this is the type of structure that it belongs in. And it could really thrive in well if you maintain the structure. I've got S-Corp LLC clients who struggle like hell in the beginning. Some of them were required to be S-Corps for certain business opportunities so that they could show up in a way to the other side of that opportunity in a way that they needed to. Lots of government contracts are like this. And again, those institutions that are financed by government contracts are examples of this, where they require any of the smaller businesses that they give business to or subcontract be S-Corps. The BOI reports, the corporate minutes, the reasonable compensation dance, it's a lot. But these folks that I have worked with push through because their business isn't just some cute little hobby or thing that they're trying out that they hope in 3 to 5 years makes some kind of sense. Okay. It's a separate entity that they're building for the long haul. They'll pay in both time and money to structure it right. They are here to play this game full out. They know that if they don't structure this away from just them, the person, they won't be taken seriously in their industry. But that's not everybody's vibe, and that is not everybody's business. And I need you to stop believing these influencers when they throw out S-Corp terms as if it is. Any type of business that you have that can create the wealth you want is beautiful. Whether it's a sole proprietorship, a single member LLC, it's not everybody's vibe to be an S-Corp. That's a beautiful thing too. I know wildly successful sole proprietors who refuse to even form an LLC. They rock a DBA or just a trade name because their life demands that simplicity. Maybe they're exhausted from court battles all day. Maybe they're traveling constantly for sick family. Maybe they're fighting systems on a daily basis that were never built for us, and they don't want to have to actually set up a life where half their time each week is structured around administrating another one. They can't add 8 more administrative demands to their already impossible juggling act. So they optimize differently. If you're just doing it on your own and you're not going to go this route, you have other tax savings available vehicles to you. Solo 401ks, strategic deductions that the IRS can't touch, 1099s ready to go no matter how your year unfolds, and more. These are good too. Both paths are good. Both choices are valid. Both require courage, especially for our community. But electing S-Corp status requires a level of self-awareness that most people never reach, let alone with their business, just for themselves. Because in this American hellscape, you have to know exactly who you are and what you're building to voluntarily add this level of complexity to your life. We're building new models of wealth that center our wholeness, not our productivity here. Sometimes that means playing the game better than they expect us to, and sometimes it means refusing to play the game a certain way just because at all. So until next time, this is Tasha reminding you that your wealth is resistance and your success is reparations. And when you thrive, that's the revolution they never saw coming, fam. Peace until next time.